We all know that real estate has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. We also know that it has created a lot of heartache due to mismanagement, overborrowing, and just simple life events that happen to all of us. Welcome to the Cashflow Pro podcast. My name is Casey Brown, and I am your fearless leader. And although we might be bourbon sipping and at times foul-mouthed Southerners, we will always do our best to be honest, straightforward, and due diligent with all of the information we pass along to you. Welcome to the show. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of Cashflow Pro, your daily real estate investing podcast and YouTube channel. I'm here today with Alex Jarbo of Sargon Investments, and today we are going to take a deep dive into the short-term rental business. He actually is in the short-term rental business from basically all perspectives, and he's also in the coaching business. So, Alex, how are you today, sir?
Good, brother. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Man, everything's good. Like my stepdad always used to tell us, the wife hadn't left and the kids aren't in jail. So, hey, he considered it a win. So, how about yourself? Everything good?
Good, man. Yeah, just keep pushing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, short-term rental business is something I think a lot of people, um, I think it appeals to a lot of people because it doesn't seem like maybe it takes as much capital to kind of get started and get like some basis. And of course, there's all of it. It makes for a perfect scenario, like especially with I've noticed a lot of people on Instagram doing the get into the short term rental business, no money, don't buy a house, don't buy anything, just buy a rental an apartment and do arbitrage. And so of course, that being said, I think we all know the dangers of that type of scenario. I think we all have investigated it enough past the fluff that we see on the internet to know that rental arbitrage, I can't imagine it works a great deal of the time, but maybe it does. And maybe you're going to tell us different. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, how you got started, and then we'll kind of transition into what all that is.
Yeah. So, just backing up almost a decade now. It was getting to a point where, I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, decided
Okay.
to get out. And then in my last year or two, I decided to just start studying up on real estate and stuff. And at the time I was, looking outside of like just real estate, I was just looking to like what to get into. Cause, I was finishing up my bachelor's, going into my master's while I was still in. And, I had come across someone that was doing They did fix and flips, but they did short term rentals as like more like a long term wealth play. And this was back in 2015, I think, 14 or 15.
Okay.
I had contacted him and reached out to him, and they were talking about different things. And he had sort of helped me decide on like where to move to, because I was sort of open to moving wherever. I'm originally from Detroit, but I was living in DC, and I was like, I didn't want to live in either one of those or like long term.
Sure.
So we decided on the city where I live now, which is Asheville, North Carolina, and the county surrounding, and just
I
with
was just
it.
there on Sunday.
Oh, awesome,
Yeah,
man! That's
I went to
hilarious.
a conference in Charlotte and
Yeah,
we drove through Asheville and back through Asheville. Very nice place. My God.
yeah, and it's
Oh,
centralized. Like there's a lot of everything within 2 to 3 hours of here.
and it's
So I
growing.
decided to come here. Yeah, yeah. I got my real estate license when I first moved here. Did the real estate agent thing for about a year, and I still hold my license to this day, but I just don't actively do it.
Sure.
And I was helping a lot of people purchase and sell short-term rentals, and that was the reason why I had moved here. And when it came time for me to start looking for a short-term rental. This is in 2016. Yeah,
Okay.
16, 17. And yeah, it's just there was nothing on the market that was within my price range that I thought could do well as a short-term rental. It probably could have done well as a long-term rental, the stuff I was looking at, but not necessarily anything that like had like sort of like curb appeal or something that would
Sure.
be
Sure.
unique to the short-term rental game. So I just decided to build my first property. So my very first real estate investment was a new construction deal. And we purchased the land. We got a really good deal on land, and like one turned into two turned into four, and today we're like, as we're recording this, I'm working on 20 right now,
Wow.
in different parts of that. So they can either be houses on stilts, which we market as tree houses. They can be A-frames, which tend to do really well. Log cabins will do well in any type of mountain market, any type of wooded market. The goal is to build unique cabins. So not a I'll build massive cabins. Like we have a cabin that can sleep 14 people that we just put on the market last week. But I'm not a fan of just purchasing, like, say, a normal single family house and using it as a short term rental. With everything that's happening in the market right now, and then everything that's happening in the short term rental market as well, I think the unique properties is what's going to continue to be more successful going into this recession and obviously coming out of it as well because
I'll tell
things
you,
go up.
the only thing that I can, and typically when we start in on things like this, I kind of start immediately likening what I've done in the past
Absolutely.
to like what to the general topic of discussion. And this particular subject rings true. My wife and I like to travel some. That's kind of our hobby. We don't do a lot of other stuff. We don't go out to eat a ton. We just that's what we like to do. And so, and one thing that I'm always up for, that she always swears she's up for until we like get there, and then she like is like, "Oh my god, they don't have Wi-Fi." Right? She's gonna love that impersonation I just did over with you if she hears this. She listens to this episode
Kill
too.
you.
But I love the Airbnb app at the top for unique stays. Like,
Yeah, and we can
and
talk
like
about that.
a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah, yeah.
people don't realize that you can go, like, the last place we went to Italy. And of course, I think the next trip we take, we're gonna like to do like Ireland or something along those lines. Like she wants to go those kinds of, like, and like you could stay in a castle. Like there's a
Yeah,
specific
right.
section for
I was
castles.
actually just looking at castles the
And I
other
was
day.
like, and so, but what I'm getting at is like the uniqueness of that kind of stuff may not be unique to you if you live there, but like who wouldn't want to go stay in a tree hut in Bali, or I mean, that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah. No,
the unique stays. I think I'm 100% on with you right there, because the thing is that I'm a pretty average guy. So if I'm doing it, if I'm searching for these things and I'm looking for it, there's got to be a pretty massive vein up above and below me
yeah.
of people that are
And
looking for the same exact thing.
you had mentioned rental arbitrage. That still works. So like when I say I'm a short term rental coach, I'm a coach from B&B, Brian Page's B&B formula, one of his like 6 or 7 coaches. And that, I mean, we
Sure.
coach thousands of students through that model, and that's how I started. Outside of me purchasing to get the down payment to get the construction deal done, I had 2 or 3 properties that was doing the rental arbitrage model. That still works phenomenally. So I'm not going to knock that, but I will say that the cash flow from, say, like my first A-frame is like, I mean, my ROI is probably 100% a year, like on that. If no, way more than that, like compared to what the money I put into it. Like I mean, just to get into some very general numbers, like we built and purchased that thing probably for 250,000 with the land furnished and everything, and that thing top line throws off about 85,000 a year, bottom line about 50,000 a year. So, and I'd only put maybe 20 or 30,000 down total with like furnishings and everything. So, I mean, my
Now,
ROI is what, 120,000 a year or 120% a year. And
all
again,
right.
that was prior to COVID. The numbers are a little bit less now, but okay, instead of it being 120%, it's what, 60, 70%. Like,
Okay.
so
So real quick, because I know, I know, I think I know what the listeners are thinking. Scale of 1 to 10, headache. Scale of one
yeah,
to 10,
no,
how big of a
that's a
headache?
good point. I mean, you have to have people that you trust. I mean, that's the biggest thing when it comes to your GC and everything. So, and then here's a good example on the headache part, because I just got an invoice for 5 grand this morning for a renovation that we just did. So, um, we just purchased a very large cabin, and then we probably put, outside of furnishings, we probably put like 10 grand into a minor renovation budget because it was like a 3,000 square foot cabin.
Okay.
When you do a renovation, things just come up, right? Like you're going to run into things, you're going to blah blah blah. Things just come up with some of these older properties that you didn't plan for. Um, Outside of the permitting process is a little slow right now in every county because they're just everyone's short staffed. But say like you purchase a property, put a renovation budget into it, it would probably take to get it fully rented out, like you get a first full months. We did a 2 month renovation budget and about a 1 month to actually get bookings coming in because it's a new property. So you're looking at about 3.5 months to do that compared to building, which is about 8 to 10 months, but you're not running into all those issues and you're getting exactly what you want. Going back to the unique stay thing, Airbnb just recently changed their algorithm to for unique stays. I like to call them like Instagrammable properties. That is they do their big summer update every summer, and that is what they recently just changed to was that is like the unique stays where you log on to the platform, whether it be the app or the desktop, and you don't even have to put in an address anymore. It just shows you properties. Be like, if you want to stay in a cabin, if you want to stay in a treehouse, if you want to stay in an A-frame, if you want to stay in a castle, if that's what it shows. So I think going back to your original question, the headache part, yeah, it is a bigger headache, but it's also, I mean, the cash flow that's coming from it's absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, my systems are pretty. The last 5 years, like I mean, we got our systems pretty much down pat, and I mean, our investors are just passive at this point for the most part, unless if they have like if they want to be a little bit more involved in like the furnishings or what. Like I have some local investors that probably put in like the last deal we did about a 250,000 put into it. Like he was a little bit more involved just because he's local.
Sure. Man, that's awesome, dude. I mean, when you start thinking about and again, everybody wants to, so a lot of people want to try to scale, and I'm guilty of it myself, trying to scale before I'm ready. Like I get something in place, I'm like, "Oh my god, this is brilliant. Let's go, boom, let's scale it." And then all of a sudden
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
10 days,
One's the
15
same as a
days.
hundred. Yeah,
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 and it's just like, yeah, all right, maybe I needed to build a little broader instead of going straight up. But the thing, and that's what I think is the fear that holds a lot of people back on the short-term rental business in general is just the headaches that the you don't like I guess I'm envisioning we've got a lake house that we're building right now,
mm,
and we're getting to the point where it's either sell it or keep it as a short-term rental, which whatever. um but the thing is that it's an hour drive, and it's just it's me and my wife here, and so I'm thinking, all right, so the girl doesn't like, right? And then like what happens from there? I mean, then you're like, okay, sorry, the girl didn't like, you're just gonna have to deal with it without it. Well, then you get a bad review. Or
right.
you are an hour drive. I don't know. That's just my, I guess, and again, maybe I'm just like overthinking it like I tend to do. But at the same time, I like to put myself in real world examples, like, because
Right.
again, we like to travel. So if we're hopefully in Ireland, right? And the girl
Yeah.
doesn't like, then what happens? Then you either have to have somebody on call or you inconvenience somebody. And it's just, again, those are just a lot of the little nuanced things that probably don't happen, but it's just something that crosses my
Yeah, but
mind
we're in
as
real estate, so we plan for worst case scenario. So
a set it
yeah,
and
no, I
forget it kind
completely
of
understand.
model is more my kind of cup of tea,
Yeah.
in a way. But nevertheless, we obviously all know that there's money in there. But that unique stays, man, that's probably one of the coolest things I've seen, and I didn't realize that they had changed the algorithm to kind of reflect the, like you said, yes, the Instagrammable type properties. I mean, that's really what they are. But and man, some of those things were super expensive. I mentioned earlier a tree house in Bali. Man, that damn thing was like $300 or $400 a night or something, and I was like,
Yeah, no, we
"What?"
have we have a treehouse community. Not it's not mine, but like we Asheville has a treehouse community, and I mean they're, I mean 2 bedroom treehouse, or like they could sleep 4 people, right? So maybe a
Yeah,
pull out couch with a bedroom. I mean they're bringing in maybe like 4 to 500 a night, and it probably cost, if I had to guess, maybe 300 grand. It's just a house on stilts. It's
yeah.
imagine you're on the beach, but you're like it's a house on the water, except you're putting it in the mountains and putting a couple trees around it.
Wow,
I mean, that's how
wow.
you get financing on them too. But yeah, they bring in 500, 600 a night. But like those things, crazy, crazy numbers.
Well, I'll tell you, this is just a little funny. But the other day,
Yeah.
well, a week ago, right? I wasn't completely sold on the idea that I was going to go to Charlotte to this conference. And I ended up, a buddy of mine called me from Phoenix, and he said, I got some extra tickets. Do you want to go? And I was like, well, yeah, yeah, that's cool. Let's go. So, right. So the first thing I did, I jumped on Airbnb, and I was like, all right, because all the block rooms that the conference had reserved were all taken. and I was like, sorry, so maybe I can find a pretty cool Airbnb downtown Charlotte, right? So I get on the app and I'm searching, and there's and everything's like $200 or $300 a night, which I was pretty well expecting, but I just kind of thought, well, maybe I could find a room or something smaller where it's just me, and then ended up being me and my son. But there was this one for $50 a night, and I was like, oh, right. Obviously, the interest, it piqued my interest just for nothing more than just to see why were all these
Right.
other rooms. And it was a brown van. It was a van like one of those old like safari vans, and it's like you can drive us anywhere. And I'm like, really? Are we really getting
No.
into the art? I mean, is your brown van really? It was like a 1987 model. I mean, I was like, what in the world?
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I guess
There's actually a platform just for RVs now, which is ridiculous. Like
I
it's like an
saw
air.
that, and that's
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. That is really cool because
So
I was
we have
just going to
some
say,
students.
especially in an upward economy,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that's going to work really well.
We have some students that like will cross sell their stuff. So like if they have cars on Turo or if they have RVs, they'll bring their guests into their property and then be like, hey, would you like an RV or would you like a car and blah blah blah.
So, which brings me to
Interesting.
another question that I have. Um, and somebody mentioned this a while ago in passing at one of these conferences I was at, or an event that I was at, and cross platforming. So if I have a house, can I list it on VRBO and Airbnb? And if you do, is there a senior program that will like if it's rented on
Yeah.
Airbnb, it'll automatically cancel it on the other one?
Absolutely. So, I actually just set one of these up last night. So, there are different PMSs, property management softwares. Same thing with multifamily, same
No,
thing with everything, self storage,
PMSs. I
whatever.
was thinking, oh wow, take me back
Yeah,
home.
yeah, no, it's gotten pretty advanced. So, I
My
mean,
wife
you
and my
can,
two daughters.
yeah, there are some different, there's some pretty advanced ones where, like, I mean, you have to have like 15 or 20 properties for some of the advanced ones where you can put it across, say, like 10, 15 platforms.
Okay.
But I use a company called Hospitable. It's $20 per property, and
Okay.
Hospitable allows you to put it on VRBO and Airbnb, and it automates the messaging for you, so you can just schedule all the messaging. Yeah,
So you
go ahead.
said 15 or 20 platforms. Can you name name several of them?
Yeah, no, right. So that's where you get into some of these platforms that are state or area specific. Like Florida has like their own
Okay.
websites and stuff. But
Okay.
I mean, the tool that helps you list these properties has all those names, and a lot of the times they have onboarding people that can help you with it as well. But I just do VRBO and Airbnb. I've realized that log cabins, family cabins tend to do better on VRBO than Airbnb, and then the A frames and some of the more unique stays tend to do better on Airbnb. Sorry, I was meant to say VRBO on the cabins.
Gotcha.
Those tend to do better on VRBO.
I've
Airbnb,
noticed that when you go to VRBO, you see a lot more um, vacation-ish kind of
yeah, like
places.
long-term stays, maybe like a week or two compared to
Yeah,
Airbnb,
like
maybe a night
like
to 4 nights.
a condo on the beach kind of things. And then if you
Right.
go to Airbnb, you have more like really somebody's house almost in a way.
Yeah, right, right. They're in the
Um,
basement. Like
so how many properties in total did you say there is that you have?
so we're building out 20 right now. And then I just recently got rid of all my retail rental arbitrage properties. That was 6, but I mean we how many do we have in the work rate? So what I've realized the niche I've carved
How many are you currently renting out as of like today?
10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to see where I'm going with this. All right. So those 10 properties, what because I'm trying to get an idea of return. So 10 properties, obviously you have the equity return or the the preferred return, whatever you want to call it. And
Right.
then you have you're paying some interest on to a bank somewhere, I assume. But when we're looking at it as a total, like say, hey, we've got X amount of dollars in these 10 properties, and these 10 properties over the last 12 months have made this. What do you think? And it doesn't even have to be exact. I mean, what do you think the total return is? Because I guess what I'm trying to get at is I'm not
Bottom line or top line is what you're asking.
both.
So just yeah, yeah. So when you're looking at when you're looking at it from a revenue standpoint, and we listed like 4 properties alone this year, in the beginning of this year. Um, but I just run the calculator real quick. On average, say if like the very first one brought in 52,000 in the year. So if you're and that's net. So say 85,000 times 10. I mean, you're looking at close to 7 figures, 850,000, and that was on the smaller cabin for 10 properties, right?
Okay.
So you're looking at a top line about 850,000 and close to. This is before top lines before
Correct.
bank
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bills,
So
equity splits,
what do you,
everything.
what's the, what is the, what was, I guess I'm trying to get a return. So what was the total cost of those 10 units, I guess, if you, or, so if you're saying 850,000, is there a total value of
Yeah,
say
if you want to look at it as returns, because I mean every single one's different. Like we have
4.2
a property
million?
that like the first one was 250 grand, and then the biggest one we purchased was close to 1 million. But I like to not promise, but I like to tell the investors right now after COVID and sort of a little bit of a market turn, even though it hasn't really affected short-term rentals too much. The investors are looking at, and this is on my joint venture deals, not on my syndication stuff. The joint venture stuff we were projecting just to the investor was about 20 to 27% return,
See, man, that's
cash on
killer,
cash.
dude. I
Yeah,
mean, that's
cash on
sick.
cash. Yeah,
Yeah, cash on
that's not
cash.
include.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and really in that business, cash on cash, again, everybody has their metrics that they look at
Right.
every, and
Cap
again,
rates and different stuff that they
yeah,
like to
and
look into.
across different asset classes and different positioning, that can all be relative. You have to choose what figures may, but cash on cash to me in the short term rental business is really probably the most important. That's my take. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, just yeah, no, absolutely. It's just what my return is. I mean, it's the same thing with multifamily. I think the return
Man,
over.
20 to 27% though, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
Good
like I
God.
said, that first property we built prior to COVID. I mean, I don't even that I look at that almost as an infinite return at this point, because it's just like I put 30 to 40 grand into it, say 40, and it kicks out 52,000 net, 50 to 55,000 net a year.
Dude, man, that's like just badass. That's
Yeah.
all the way around
But
badass.
what I realized like in the last I would say year and a half was the reason why I say like we have 10 but we're working on 20 right now. When I say working, I mean like we practically broke it. Most of them we've broken ground on. If not, we already have the permits for all of them.
Okay.
Is that I realize the best use of my time, especially a lot of these properties where you have to get like permitted in front of the county board and stuff. Never been denied for one, but it just takes time to do that. And you can hire an attorney, but it just helps to be there. The best use of my time is building these 6 to 8 unit micro cabin communities,
Okay.
and just finding a couple investors for them. That's sort of where I realized there wasn't on like my time, there wasn't really any difference between going out and finding a piece of property that was 2 acres or 50 acres. To me, it was the same amount of time. Obviously, it's just a bigger number, and then getting more people involved. But
Hi, this is Casey Brown, host of the Cashflow Pro podcast and YouTube channel. Have you been thinking about investing in real estate but just don't know where to begin? I'd like to help by inviting you to check out our website at www.3000capital.com. There you will find an array of material that will help you learn all about real estate syndication. And while you're there, be sure to check out our free video series download titled 5 Must-Know Keys to Success in Passive Real Estate Investing. I'd also like to personally thank you for making Cashflow Pro part of your day. Now, back to the show.
when it came to like dealing with people in like my time, I realized the best use of my time is to do these like 6 to 8 cabin communities, and I think that is the sweet spot right now, at least for the next like 2 to 3 years. Because then
Now,
when you have like
when you
yeah,
say community, that's like maybe you have, like, I'm just going to use for example a lake. Like you would have like maybe one lot on the lake and then a community kind of built around there or
yeah,
something
so
like that.
I mean, I'll give you an example. The one that we're about to break ground on. So it's 15 acres. We split it into three. The reason why we split it up is just for county rules, just to not to do a subdivision essentially, and that's what they
Sure.
recommended. But 15 acres, we split it into 3 lots, and we did a primary and an accessory dwelling unit on each one of those. So that was 6, and we can do up to 10. So we took 15 acres, split it into 3 parcels, 3 5 acre parcels, and we put 3 primaries and 3 accessory dwellings, and those are three A-frames and like three like barn style houses, which they're all new construction. So stuff like that. That's essentially what when I say community, that's what I mean. But I mean, these are all these properties are permanent foundations, custom stick built houses. They're
Sure.
not
So
like.
there's
I mean,
something that you
I'm
could.
not against tiny houses on wheels. They kill it too, but yeah,
So
these
they're
are.
really something that, like, if you wanted to, like, when it comes time to maybe exit or whatever, you could sell as individual parcels. I mean,
That's
not
part of the
really.
exit. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the things I tell the investors is there's multiple exits built into it. If we need to, we can sell
Yeah.
them off individually to someone who wants to live in them, or we can sell the whole thing as a package. And I mean, I feel like you would make more there, like on the if it was cash flowing and as an
If it's
income
sold based on the
deal.
return, for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Wow, man, that's killer, dude. I like that. That's, I mean, obviously we all know that the way to a lot of wealth right now is through short-term rentals, but I think there's a lot of people that are hesitant. One other question that popped in my mind a minute ago that I think a lot of people, that another reservation that folks could potentially have based on this type of a business model is homeowners association kind of stuff, like, or restriction changes, or zoning changes, where all of a sudden, like, you've obviously seen, like, downtown Nashville, they built a massive um uh almost a skyscraper type. I guess I don't even know what definition is a skyscraper, but I just mean something along those lines of all
Yeah, in the
every
center of the
like
city, you're saying. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, like I don't even remember how many floors it was, 100 and something maybe or whatever. And then all
yeah.
of a
It's
sudden
definitely the biggest one.
all of a sudden the city comes in and they're like, hey, we love your building, but by the way, we're not going to allow short-term rentals downtown anymore. And so I guess that's obviously the extreme example
Yeah,
of
but I mean, it's good to think in extremes because that's your worst case scenario.
again, yeah, that's typically, yeah, the worst case scenario for sure. And as long as you're always kind of pricing your way into the worst case scenario, then you tend to at least be okay. But I
Yeah,
just, what's the hedge against that? I mean, just
absolutely.
selling then. Uh,
Yeah, so
that's
the
just,
the first hedge is none of our properties are in the city of Asheville. They're all within. So Asheville is a drive-in city. So like we have a tiny airport. It has four gates, and usually people who fly in still rent a car. So
sure,
people are driving. People are used to driving. It's fine for people to drive 10 to 20 to 30 minutes to get into the city. So all of our properties are in the county. They're not in the city. And that was because if it was my property, maybe I would feel a little bit more comfortable with breaking the rules and still because I mean there if you look at the numbers, Asheville does not allow for short-term rentals, but in the city of Asheville there's 3,500 Airbnbs. Like that you can pull those numbers up on AirDNA, which is a software that we use for short-term rental stuff. But there's 3,500 short-term rentals in Asheville. But since I'm taking on investor capital, and I mean these are long-term plays, 10-year holds and stuff, that's one way we've hedged against it is just staying away from it. And the second thing is when Asheville did change their rules and didn't allow for short-term rentals, they still grandfathered in everyone who had a short-term rental permit. So those properties are still operating legally in the city. It's just you wouldn't be able to sell them or blah blah blah. But that's where we talked about multiple built-in exits where we can sell them as houses to families if we needed to. And again, that's worst case scenario. But that is one of the reasons why I've stuck to new construction, permanent foundation, stick built houses compared to say like a tiny house on wheels or something.
sure,
Um,
yeah,
and
man. I
I mean,
mean,
you can argue that the tiny houses on wheels isn't a bad model either because it's impossible to. If you want to purchase one of those, it's impossible to find them right now because everyone's so backed up. So
I have to go back to that example in downtown Nashville, and it was like one of the things that really drove me crazy about that particular deal when I started kind of researching it. I mean, like, it was basically just, that was just like people being assholes. Like, there wasn't, the short term rental wasn't going to hurt anything, but I'm sure it was the hotel business was like, hey, we're over here. You're just going to sit here and let these people just, and
for
maybe there
sure,
was, why didn't they allow them to be like, hey, these, we could do some special zoning, or we could do, but I think at the end of the day they did come to an agreement where, hey, we're going to tax you all like we tax a
a
hotel or
hotel.
whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and then we're going to
But
allow
I mean,
like,
I've Well, like, I mean, anybody who's getting into this business that doesn't have a partner that does all the work, like me, like who's just wanting to do it themselves. I mean, you need to memorize your zoning code. Like you need to be able to navigate your zoning code and navigate within the gray areas without breaking the rules and everything.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where we've operated is all of our properties, there's no HOAs in any of our properties, zero.
Yeah.
The closest thing to an HOA we have is road maintenance agreements on private driveways for some of our
Sure.
properties.
Sure.
But I don't invest in properties in HOAs, period. It's just
It's
properties
just
that
it's
are,
too risky. I mean,
no,
it's
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've met hosts in this market who were in HOAs and short-term rentals were allowed. And then the community got together and said, no, it's not allowed. That can happen overnight. So
Shit.
there goes, like, your business
Yeah,
is
and
gone
that's like
overnight.
I said, it boils down to people just being assholes. It really is what it amounts to, or wanting to control something that's outside of their control. But anyway, all right. Well,
Yeah.
listen, Alex, thank you so much for your time today and telling us everything that we've learned. And I really encourage, folks, the listeners out there that want to potentially pursue short term rentals. I mean, here's your guy right here. He'll coach you in it. He'll tell you all about it. He'll help you. He'll make sure that what you're investing in is definitely give you some pointers anyway. So all right, well, listen, Alex, every guest that comes on the show, we have a couple of questions that we ask them. No right or wrong answer, just a couple of questions that give us a peek into possibly your life and maybe a little bit of who you are as a person. But what is the first of those questions is, what is the best book that you have either recently read or are currently reading?
Yeah. The best book I've read is Creature from Jekyll Island, the book on the Federal Reserve. I've just realized that studying a whole bunch of successful people in the real estate game and just in the finance world in general, for some reason that book keeps popping up either in their hands or in their bookshelf or something. So
Sure.
that in the last like 3 years, that's definitely been probably. And if you don't want to read something that big, The One Thing by Gary Keller and Jay Papasan, that's like a tiny book, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
those are the two biggest books that have had an impact on me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, the one thing is I get that a lot, and that's just a very
It's so
indicative of
simple.
Gary Keller. And yeah, I mean, it's like Gary Keller is just like, hey, and it's a lot like a
Work
lot of
on
these
one
other
thing.
coaches. Yeah, just do it. Don't
Just
and
do it for
then and
3
then
hours a day. That's it.
yep. And you get up every day and you focus on that one thing and you keep going and you keep going and you keep going, and then before you know it, hey, man, things are rolling. All right.
No, for sure.
Next question. What is a dream vacation that you have either taken or hope to take?
Yeah, it was my honeymoon, and I regret doing that as my first big trip. Is the Maldives? We went to the Maldives and got like, exactly what you
Oh,
said. Instead of Bali, it was a hut over the water, over the Indian Ocean.
oh my
Commute was
God.
trash. Commute was like 24 hours to obviously to get there, but yeah, no, it was. We think about doing that
Yeah,
trip
but man,
every year
that
now.
makes me just, oh my gosh, that's, mm, mm, mm. I could
Yeah,
only imagine that. Yeah, you hit a home run on that first one, dude. You're gonna have a hard time.
yeah.
You're
Might
gonna
as well
have a
just
hard time
start looking at
sticking.
short term rentals in that area because they sell them like that and stuff, like where you
Well,
can.
and the whole thing about that's what I like about the short term rental business is if you do have like your spot, yours and your wife's spot, like where you just
Right.
love to go on vacation. I mean, there's so many different little ideas you could do there. If you owned one, you could
Yeah,
travel back and forth, and all of a sudden it becomes a tax write off, and then
absolutely.
oh well, we're gonna stay here for a couple days, and you know, I think we all know that deal. So anyway, well,
Right.
Alex, listen, man, thank you so much for coming on here. And if the listeners heard something that resonated with them, or some way that something that they want to learn more about, what is the best way for them to reach out and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website, sargoninvestments.com. That's probably the quickest way to get to me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and then I also have my YouTube channel that I host. I'm pretty involved in the comment section in there. So like it's split up between if you want to do something together, invest or blah blah blah. For you just starting, you can use the YouTube channel. Like just I mean
Cool.
I just detail all the stuff that I if I run into an issue in the week, like it probably turns into a YouTube video. So
Yeah,
yeah,
document, man.
for sure.
Document, document, document. Well, cool deal.
Yep.
All right. Well, listen, listeners, if you like what you've heard today, reach out, give Alex a shout, go to his YouTube channel, or check out his website. And as always, if you like what you heard, and we ask that you head down, hit, smash, tap, whatever you want to do to that subscribe button. And also, please, from the bottom of our hearts, leave us a 5-star review along with a review so that we know what we can do or are doing to make the show better or what you like about it. So I want to thank everybody for their time today. Alex, again, thank you. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day.
Cashflow Pro is hosted by Casey Brown, founder and CEO of 3000 Capital, a commercial real estate investment firm committed to providing its investors with ongoing cash flow and helping them build long-term wealth. If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll be notified about all our future episodes. You can find more information about us and our investment philosophy by clicking the link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening.